I have nowhere to go.
Here we go.
Hey, fat fish heads. It's time for another edition of the hottest new podcast on all platforms, Fat Fish. Sit back and strap yourself in for the wildest ride on the open seas. Now, flap your fins for the fabulous Fat Fish brothers, Eric Fish Snyder and Brad Grunny Grunberg, a.k.a. Snacks.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh.
We're back, number 43, and there's only one way to start this, Fish, with an old and dear friend, and I mean old. We met a long time ago, and I want to introduce him. My buddy, my pal, the greatest leader I know, the greatest guy I know. We'll get into how we met. How about a nice hand for Dr. Steve Haberman?
Doctor.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, how you doing?
Good,
What are we
buddy.
doing here, by the way?
What'd you say?
What are we doing here?
I have no idea. I just wanted to see how you were doing on my podcast, Fat Fish. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm waiting to find out what this is about. I can hardly wait.
This is about you. It's about you and all the good things you've done in your life.
Me, all right.
And we're going to elaborate on other things coming soon to a theater near you.
There are no theaters.
That's true. Yeah. What is going on with that? Everybody just stays
home. They destroyed their business model. They made it too easy to sit home with a great big beautiful screen and watch a pristine print off the negative in surround sound in your living room in your underwear. Why would you want to go to a movie?
But didn't this all happen because of COVID, or was it happening before?
No. They destroyed their business model. They made it so that it costs more to go see a movie in a movie theater than it does to buy a Blu-ray and have it for life in your library like a book and watch it at home. I mean, why would you want to go and deal with the other people, eating and opening wrappers and all that?
Well, by the way, that's me at the theater, opening wrappers. Yeah.
And it never stops. It's like a joke. It's like the wrapper, you keep waiting for him to stop the wrapper, and the wrapper is for 2.5 hours or however long the wrapper is going.
Well, I'm going to tell you the members of Mensa here in Las Vegas, Steve and Brad, they decided to put bars in I live in Las Vegas, Steve, and they decided to put bars in all the movie theaters. So it's hard enough watching a film without someone talking. Now you got drunks in there. So that totally takes out the experience of watching a film, because you can't, hey, projector, turn it back. I missed that line because this idiot back of me is drunk off his ass. Nah. I'd rather sit at home doing my rappers.
But you know what? I've got a great innovation to that. To make it work for everybody, just take the theater out and leave the bar.
I like that. Idea, man. Can we put Steve in the middle?
What?
I want to put Steve in the middle like a sandwich. Can we do that, Fish?
I could try. Yeah. No, I got to take you guys out, and then
I had to go to the hospital last time.
Okay, just leave it. Okay. So here's how we met. It was the late 80s, not to date us, and I got a job at 20th Century Fox Studios as a waiter in the commissary. I mentioned that on our podcast before. Well, these two guys, Steve Haberman, Dr. Steve Haberman, we'll get into that, why he's called Dr. And Rudy DeLuca, these two writers, they were writers with Mr. Uncle Mel Brooks.
Right.
And I would go by the table and they'd go, "Why are you sweating?" I go, "I'm sweating because of you and your presence there." He goes, "Where the fuck's my food? And stop sweating and towel yourself off and get back here with my food." I go, "Okay." Steve and Rudy are instrumental in me being in Mel Brooks' film. The first one, I auditioned while I was serving them food with Anne Bancroft, Mel, Steve, and Rudy. And Steve goes, "All right, Johnny Cocktails, get over here. All right, it's time for the audition. Go." And I did the first, and Mel goes, "Not bad. How about do it again?" And then he looked at Anne. He goes, "What do you think? She goes, I like him. I like him.
She liked you. She did. She learned not to. But at first, she really did like you.
Did she? Why?
Yeah. But the thing about it is, it's true. We wrote this little scene for Johnny Cocktails, our waiter, and unbeknownst to Mel, and we had Johnny come to the table and do it when Ann was there having lunch with us. So it was, and Johnny Cocktail did great. And his scene, he was so afraid when we were shooting the scene because it was a big studio movie. This is a big MGM. And we're on location, which was my idea. I'm amazed Mel speaks to me. But we shot this in downtown LA on Skid Row because that's where it took place. And Johnny Cocktails is down there and he's rehearsing his one over and over and tasting and eating. And he comes up and he says, I'm terrified. And it's a scene with Mel. We made sure it was a scene with Mel Brooks. And so he comes up and he says, I'm so terrified to do this. What if I said, Johnny, what do you care? It's going to be cut. It's not. Just do it and let's get the hell out of here. Because the sun was, when you're shooting at downtown LA, once the sun goes down behind the buildings across the street, you're in shadow. And that means they have to fire up the arc lights. The reflectors aren't good enough anymore. And so it takes time and it takes money. We're chasing these shadows of the buildings coming, and Mel is not happy about it.
Not happy.
Yeah, right. And so, so he did it, and he did it good. He really did. He really stepped up to the plate, or to the.
I was quite nervous, Steve, because Uncle Mel was, he was directing, producing, starring, and he was nervous to go over budget and to go late and, pay everybody, union, anything over 8, then, everybody's in.
This was a big movie, and we had a decent budget, but Mel is Mel. He doesn't like to spend especially on Johnny Cocktails.
Yeah, exactly. So I eat a burrito. So basically what I've seen is Mel his character is starving and he's on the streets of LA, and he comes up to me and goes, excuse me, do you know where I can get something at a taco stand? And I'm eating a burrito. I go, listen, pal.
He comes a burrito in his mouth and he says,
I don't know where my next meal's coming from. And I shove the burrito in my mouth.
It's physically imposing, so it's a joke. And what? And he did it. And the thing about it is Johnny Cocktails, then he eats half the burrito and leaves half of it on the counter, which wasn't really written or discussed or anything. And he exits, and Mel is standing there, and the burrito was still there. The half of the burrito was still there, and Mel reached for it, and the guy inside the taco stand grabbed it. This was all unwritten. It was great. It actually happened while we were doing it, and it's in the movie. All we had to do was shoot an insert of the burrito, of the half the burrito, and even the burrito was on its game that day because one bean fell, boom, during the action burrito.
The burrito was on its game.
Yeah. Love it. This was the movie Life Stinks. I want all our viewers and listeners to know.
It's a movie that we brought to Mel, and he loved the idea of it, and we made it, and he's very, very proud of it, and so am I. It wasn't a hit like Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein, but it's Mel's greatest performance, which he acknowledges. And in interviews, Mel will say, if you really want to understand Mel Brooks as a filmmaker, see Life Stinks.
True.
So he's very proud of it, and so am I. I don't know why he jumped at it. I kind of do know why he jumped at it. It was really what he was. Yeah. The reason he jumped at it is because that was what he really wanted to be as a filmmaker. His first 2 movies were not parodies. It was The Producers and 12 Chairs, which were comedies, but they were comedies based on his worldview. Mel is an auteur, which I had to explain to him, but he readily agreed. But he's an auteur. He makes movies based on his worldview, which is very specifically his. And they're always love stories, usually between men, not homosexual, but still love, where they're 2 guys from completely different areas of life that are forced together to enact some kind of scheme, usually to make money. And his theme is love or money. What's more important, you know? And this movie was that. And he bonds with a couple of guys on the street and a bag lady who he actually falls in love with. And I knew that was going to appeal to him. And also the setting was something important to him. It was about money. It was about a guy who had money and he was losing his money and he wanted to get it back. And so we pitched this to him and he fell for it immediately. I mean, he didn't even think about it. He slapped the desk and said, "We'll make it." And that's those days he had the power to do that, just to say, "We'll make it." And it was a done deal.
Well, great story about Steve is I asked Steve this question. So I waited on Mel and he said, "Keep in touch."
Yeah.
Said, "Oh my God, what does that mean?" Oh shit. Mel Brooks said keep in touch. So I asked Steve what that means. And what did you tell me?
I said, once upon a time, I was a film student at USC. And I went to go see the screening of Young Frankenstein at Bovard Auditorium at USC. And Mel was in attendance. He was there and it was a sold out. It was huge. All the kids went. And it was a big hit. And I was outside when Mel left. It was nighttime now. And Mel was walking through all these kids congratulating. He walks past me. And I said to him, an anonymous kid at USC, 17 years old, I said to him, "Great movie, Mr. Brooks." And he said, "Thanks, kid. Keep in touch." And so Johnny Cocktails, decades later, says to me, "Hey, Mel just said keep in touch to me. What does that mean? What should I do?"
And you said it took me 20 years to work with you.
And have a good night's sleep and never think about it again.
Right, because it took me 20 years to work with him after he told me keep in touch.
Right.
Hey, so Fish, there's a reason why they call Steve Haberman Dr. Steve Haberman.
Yeah, I have a PhD.
You have a PhD in horror films, correct?
Well, no, not horror, in film studies. It's a PhD from De Montfort University in Leicester, England. And I went to that particular university because they specialize in British horror. They have the Hammer Films collection, which is all the scripts and all the documentation and everything that was left from Hammer Films.
Is that MC Hammer? You can't touch that?
I'll explain it to you, Johnny Cocktails. Buckle up. It's about Hammer Films was a company in England that was making basically second features in black and white during the 40s and 50s. What they called in England quota quickies, because that's a socialist country, and the government there subsidized the film industry as the arts, and also to make money. And so they decided what they would do is they would make basically quota quickies, which was just they had to make a certain number of movies because it was a government program, and they would make these B features with hopefully a Hollywood star. And one of those companies, which was originally called Exclusive and then became Hammer Films, decided they had a great idea. They were going to make a remake of Frankenstein. It hadn't been made since 1931, and they decided to do this in 1957. They were going to make a remake of Frankenstein. It had never been remade. There had been sequels, in America, but never remade. And they were going to go back to the original novel, which was in the public domain because it was published in 1818, Mary Shelley's original novel. But they were going to make it in color. They were going to make it in England in period, because the original Frankenstein movies were not made in the 19th century. They were made in the 20th century, but with that sort of concept of Frankenstein. And they were going to take it very seriously. And so they did. They made this movie, and it was a gigantic, and it was also very bloody and kind of sexy for 1957. So it was a huge hit, a huge international hit. So they did what they had to do. They made Dracula. They made The Phantom of the Opera. They made a werewolf movie. They made a mummy movie. And it became England brought back the Gothic horror film, which had basically been dormant for at least 10 years. And that's what I wanted to write my thesis on, is something that occurred during that era of the genre. And so I thought the best place to do that would be De Montfort, because their professors were specialists in that area of film history and criticism. And they also had the Hammer Film Library. They had in their film library, and I don't mean the movies, I mean the scripts and the production papers and all that stuff, which I was gonna need in my endeavors. So that's where I went, and I succeeded. I wrote a thesis, and it's going to be a book, by the way.
Oh,
It's
wow.
my first book.
Nice.
It's going to be published in about 6 months by Bear Manor Publishing, and so there you go.
Well, Steve, Mr. Fish would like to
call me Dr. Steve Haberman.
Oh, excuse me. Dr. Mr. Fish here, I gave him the script Slices. He asked
good.
a couple questions for you.
What?
Doc, you read a script, and my parents were both in Hollywood, and the first 10 pages were so captivating to me. And I read a lot of scripts. It's a phenomenal script.
Thank you.
I'm saying, I'm going to try and, if I know anyone, I'm going to try and help these guys get this done on one condition. You got to get Brad the hell out of that film. It's too good of a script. You don't need any taco eating moron sitting in that film. It's an
No,
excellent
don't you think?
script.
Well, wait a minute. Think about it. Don't you think he'd be great to play the guy, the pizza place owner, Frank? I mean, I think he'd be fantastic. And plus, you get to see him killed.
Brad's a great actor. I'm just jobbing a little bit, but I'm a big fan.
He's an Italian pizza place owner, right? Tough guy. I think he's going to have to gain a little weight for that part.
Wow, that's a stretch,
right?
I'm already working on that. I'm already working. I'm De Niro, baby.
You can start at lunchtime today.
I got to ask Dr. Steve Haberman one question that's really exciting me, because he talked about the film studies and he talked about the macabre, and you wrote a film in 1995 called Dracula Dead and Loving It. Talk about that, because I'm going to go. I looked up your all your dossier on IMDb, and I said, I've got to see that. I'm a big vampire guy. Talk about, is that one of the first films you've written? Because that goes back 30 years. And what did it? Can I find it?
I look. I'm like Dorian Gray. I just don't age. I don't know why. It's not from Clean Living, I'll tell you that. But I just don't.
38.
But so that movie. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. So we make Life Stinks. And Mel was very happy with it. And Mel was a junior writer back in the day, in the 1950s, for the great Sid Caesar, who I also wrote for, believe it or not. Ooh. Not in the 50s, but I did write for him. And Sid Caesar always had his writers. It was the Show of Shows and Caesar's Hour, the two, probably the premier sketch comedy shows in the history of television. The funniest sketches ever with the best cast. And why not? The cast was Sid Caesar, Howie Morris, Carl Reiner, and Imogene Coca. And the writers were, this was the writers' room for the Sid Caesar show in the 1950s. Mel Brooks, Woody Allen, Neil Simon, Larry Gelbart, Carl Reiner. This is all in the same room at the same time. Sid Caesar himself, and some that I've forgotten. And Mel Tolkien, Lucille Callan. So these were the great comedy minds of the 20th century, and they were all discovered by Sid Caesar, as was I later. And they made this funny show. And so Sid had his writers all the time, during rehearsals, during shooting, always. And so Mel, when he became a movie director, did the same thing. So I was on every second of Life Stinks. I didn't know Mel Brooks before I pitched him Life Stinks. So, we were strangers, and I was the new kid in town. But I was there. If Mel was there, I was there. Because, his idea is, you never know when a writer's going to come up with something. It's just going to trigger something funny I can use. So we made this movie Life Stinks, and it was an adventure, and Mel got to know me, and I got to know him. And so when it was done, he said, you know a lot about movies. And he said, I'm not just Mel Brooks. I'm Brooks Films. I'm a very classy guy. I produced The Elephant Man. I produced The Fly. I produced 84 Charing Cross Roads. And he said, what you should do is you should write something for Brooks Films, and I'll produce it, and you should direct it. Because I made a complete nuisance of myself on the set of Life Stinks. And
amen to that.
And he must have enjoyed it. So he thought I should probably do it on my own. Well, anyway, so that's what I did. I wrote this big science fiction movie called Not Human. Really big, sort took place in the biosphere. It had all the CGI special effects, and he liked it and he bought it. God bless him. And so he was setting it up, and as he was setting it up, MGM became interested in it. And so we were doing storyboards and maquettes of the monsters and, little styrofoam models of the sets. And we were going to make this movie. And then MGM called one day, said, we're going to make Not Human, but it's not Human. We're going to make another one called Species. Species. We have this script called Species. We're going to make that instead of Not Human. So have a nice day. So that went its way. So Mel says to me, why don't you write something else cheaper? So I did. I wrote Pizza Man, or as you know it, Slices. And so Mel bought it again, and he tried to set it up, but things happened, the COVID and the stock market crashed and a bunch of stuff happened, and it never got made. And so it's been passed down through the acts of God, shall we say, to Johnny Cocktails, of all people, the waiter.
It's good. The waiter comes back. The waiter. And I brought it to Lauren Francesca, who is amazing. Lauren,
who we all love.
We love her. She's been doing these horror films for many. Yeah, look at Fish. Yeah.
But if you make the right, listen to me. If you make the right horror film and you make it the right way, you don't have to do a lot of them, because those get lost. The distribution system now is so fractured. But if you make one that's really scary and really entertaining, then you get to do the next one a little bit bigger, and the next one after that a little bit bigger. The idea is not to make a movie. The idea is to make a good movie. And making a good movie is not just getting a bunch of friends together and shooting. You have to have a good script. You have to have a good director who plans, who works within whatever circumscribed budget he's given to make the best film he can. And it can be done. I mean, some really great movies have been made under these circumstances, especially in the horror genre, because that's a genre that people break in with. Movies like Peter Bogdanovich's Targets, which, as it turned out, was the best movie he ever made. He made it because Roger Corman wrote him a check for $150,000 and gave him Boris Karloff, and he went off and made a masterpiece. And or going from a different perspective, Night of the Living Dead, the first Night of the Living Dead that George Romero made, was made on weekends with a crew that usually did commercials and industrial films, which he also was. And he got his crew together, and on the weekends he made this classic, that started its own subgenre within the horror genre of the zombie movie. So,
who's directing Slices?
Me.
Oh, I didn't know. Really? Oh, no. Oh, we're doomed. Oh,
yeah.
Shit.
Well, here's the thing. When I started out, when I went to USC, I made this film on my own because I didn't want USC to own it. I raised the money because I was doing very well at USC. That's where I got my undergraduate degree in cinema. And I made this film called Blind Curve, which is a very suspenseful, exciting sort of half-hour movie, kind of like a very spectacular episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, I guess. And it won like 18 international film festival awards, and it was a thing. The Cine, which is I don't know if it's still there, but it's the Council on International Non-Theatrical Events in Washington, D.C. It was a government sort of program. It picked my film as Film of the Year, and it distributed it to all of these film festivals, which we won. Because it's a very entertaining movie, very professionally made. So because of that, and the fact that I was getting all my screenplays optioned, even when I was a student at USC, because I got an agent. One of my professors got me an agent. Because of that, I used to work for these B movie companies like New World, as a visual consultant, which is kind of a job that I made up for myself. They would hire me every time they had a first-time director that was attached to a script that they wanted to do. And what I would do is I would work with the director. I would storyboard the scenes, break the master scene screenplay into shots and storyboard those. And I would go on the set with the director and help them figure it out. And I did that for a lot of movies. And I thought somebody's going to ask me to direct one, but they never did, because every time I was hired, it was always for a project that had a director they couldn't get rid of and they didn't trust. That's why they hired me, so I could help them out. So anyway, one of those directors was Rudy DeLuca. He was making his little movie, Transylvania 65000, with a spectacular cast. You know, it was Jeff Goldblum and Ed Begley Jr. and Gina Davis and who else was in it? Michael Richards and Carol Kane. Had a spectacular cast. And we went to Yugoslavia, and I helped Rudy direct this movie, and it was a hit. Surprisingly,
were you like visual consultants on that?
Visual consultant. This is how I met Rudy DeLuca. And Rudy had a very successful screenwriting career. His writing partner was Barry Levinson. They were partners for 14 years. And they had won 2 Emmys for the Carol Burnett Show, and Mel had hired them to write Silent Movie and High Anxiety. So they had this history with Mel. So anyway, we make this movie, and I'm the visual consultant for Rudy DeLuca. And when we get back, Barry Levinson had already directed Diner, and I think he was working on The Natural at the time, and so he needed a partner, and he asked me to be his writing partner. And I already, had distinguished myself. I'd had a bunch of scripts optioned when I was a student at USC. And so I said, sure. And I became his writing partner. And one day Mel Brooks called. And because of that phone call, I ended up pitching Life Stinks to Mel, and the rest is history.
Wow. Now you directed before. I've seen some of your work in the pornography world. You were
yes.
Oh.
That's the thing. I'll tell you something. I was always on the fringes of low budget filmmaking in Hollywood and in the Valley. I never met anybody who did porn. It must be the most underground thing. Oh, did you do porn for real?
Yeah.
Where are you guys hiding out? In the Valley someplace?
Well, I did a couple of, yes. I was in Canoga Park. I did a film called Forest Humps, and I did Gladiator. So I mean, what can I tell you?
Yes. I was living in Sherman Oaks, and I never saw hide nor hair of you guys. If you'll pardon me.
The problem with Fish was he pulled down his pants, and that it was over. They threw him off the set. He bragged about his package, and you know how that goes.
There we go.
But
hey, Doc, can I ask Dr. Steve a question, Brad, for you get on a tangent? Because he brought up the film. It's a film. This guy's a PhD in film studies, and I just noticed, just by being a layman, that the horror genre is so big. Are you like me? Are you a Rob Zombie guy? Are you the kind of guy that likes the paranormals? Remember the original Amityville Horror, Steve, with Margot Kidder and James Brolin? That scared the shit out of me in 1978. But the Rob Zombie type films, like The House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, they're so popular. Which way do you go?
Well, I like the genre. I'm a student of the genre. So, right. But originally what I was very interested in is a kind of psychological horror. I loved Hitchcock. I loved Psycho, and I loved Frenzy, and I loved Roman Polanski. I loved Repulsion. I thought that was a fabulous movie. And of course, Rosemary's Baby and The Tenant and stuff. So that was kind of the area that I enjoyed. But really, as a fan, I loved all kinds of horror. Including, as you said, occult horror involving the supernatural. Because the thing about horror is, it's really a metaphor for reality. Depending on the filmmaker, they use the elements of horror, whether it's psychological or whether it's supernatural, as a metaphor for real problems between real people in real life. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any way to connect to it. And so I studied that, and I'm a bit of an authority now. I've done 69 audio commentaries for Blu-rays and DVDs of classic horror films, all the way back. I did the audio commentary for the Bela Lugosi Dracula, and the Boris Karloff not Frankenstein, The Mummy, from the 30s for Universal. I did those, and there was a great horror filmmaker, very groundbreaking psychological horror film maker in the 40s by the name of Val Lewton. I did 4 of his movies, and I wrote the documentary that goes on the box set of his movies for Warner Brothers. And my book, Silent Screams, is about silent horror movies. So I've bridged the genre. I guess probably the latest, chronologically, the latest movie I've done an audio commentary for is David Cronenberg's The Dead Zone, the Stephen King adaptation.
Great movie.
I'm interested in the whole genre, and creatively, I'm interested in the whole genre. I used to sort of just concentrate on psychological horror, of which Slices is one. That's a psychological horror movie, but a little more psychological than your usual slasher film, with hopefully a little bit more of a. I want to make it like. Have you ever seen Hitchcock's Frenzy?
I have not. No.
Well, stop this recording now. Go Hitchcock's Frenzy.
See you later.
Yeah, we'll wait right here, because it's the most horrific of his movies. It has a rape scene that my wife can't watch, and she usually hits me if I do watch it. It's really graphic, and it's very cinematic, but it's also just gut-wrenching. But it also has a great sense of humor. It has that Hitchcock kind of macabre sense of humor. It's not a funny movie, but you'll laugh. You'll laugh during the movie intentionally, not at the movie, because the movie has and that's what I'm trying to do with Slices. That's like the football game scene, which could be hysterically funny, but it's not a funny movie, That's because you want to make it real, but you want the comedy not to guy the material. You want it to come from character. Because in my opinion, that's what's funny in life anyway, is people. People are funny.
Right. Well, Slices moved. I mean, it's hard for me to keep my attention on something. I'm turning those pages like crazy. So I'm rooting for you. Is it Dr. Steve? Is it because, like you said, we're so addicted to violence? Football is the most popular sport. And you look at the shows, The Walking Dead and their 36 spinoffs. I mean, the horror genre is never going to die, is it?
No, because I'll tell you the real reason. It's not that we're addicted to violence or anything like that. There's a great anthropologist by the name of Robert Audrey, and he was the inspiration for Kubrick's 2001, actually all of Kubrick's pictures, and also he was the inspiration for Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs. And what he posited in his books, like The African Genesis or The Territorial Imperative, is that we evolved from a species of killer apes. And the reason we have opposable thumbs is so that we could hold weapons to beat each other over the heads with and take their water. That we evolved because we're a violent species. We're omnivores who basically prefer eating meat, and we're territorial. We will guard our women and our caves and our local watering hole to the point of killing. And that's our first instinct, is to kill. That's why I expect this political season to become violent, because we've come to that point. It's 1861 again, gentlemen. And this country's about ready to have brother kill brother, and it's inevitable. It's happened all through history. It didn't build up to this point. We had tamped it down with the veneer of civilization, which we've created through Western culture. Yes, I said Western culture, a veneer of civilization. Through much of the world, they don't even have the veneer of civilization. It's just violent all the time. But we're breaking through. We are going to achieve our destiny of killing each other without conscience.
Well, we need to get Slices made before this whole thing goes on in the election.
Yes.
So at least we have something to entertain us before the Debbie Downer Deads comes.
Than following human nature.
Did you ever meet Alfred Hitchcock?
No, I followed him to an elevator once.
Oh, that's
until he called security.
That's real creepy. And what about Vincent?
That never happened. That never happened.
So did you ever get on the elevator or no?
No. He turned around and he said, "Good evening."
What about Vincent Price?
Vincent Price I saw a couple times, yeah.
Oh,
I went to a couple times he was speaking. I love Vincent Price. He's a hero. Yeah. And he was a very learned man. He was a very intelligent, learned man, very hip to what he was doing in the genre, and funny. Vincent Price was a really funny guy. He was naturally funny. That's why they had him on shows like Hollywood Squares, and he'd be on the Tonight Show and stuff like that.
Amazing, amazing. What a career you have had, sir.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, we're going to make slices. I'm 2024. And, this guy I call Fish, my buddy here, I have a feeling he's got some ideas on how he might get involved with the movie. And
just add money. That's all we need. We have all the. That's right.
Money buys it. Hey, Brad, let me teach you something. You taco eating idiot. Money buys everything.
Burrito,
okay?
burrito,
tacos. He can put a taco on your mouth. Hey, Dr. Haberman, we like to have fun sometimes on this show, and I do a little research in the commercials. The number one commercial out right now is John Travolta playing Santa Claus, and it's sort of like it's a takeoff on his great film in '77, Saturday Night Fever, where he goes through Manhattan and he does the dance at the end. Well, you're about to cast somebody in Slices, and I want you to grade after you see this video his dancing. Okay, here we go.
It's a blast from the past. All your favorite arcade games like Asteroid, Centipede, Defender, and Galaga. So polish up your old moves. You'll need them to survive the arcade classics. Now available in 2-in-1 game packs for Game Boy and Super Game Boy, baby.
Think of that,
wow. Yeah. I'm so proud of you. You know what I'm most proud of? That you didn't have a heart attack.
Wow. 2 days of dancing all
that
day
was 2
long.
days well spent. It really was. That was worth the time. That's all you need. You know what? I would have treated you way better had I seen that earlier.
There you go. Buddy, the big man can move. The big man can move. I got wheels, baby.
Can you still do that? Tell me the truth. Can you still do that?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, dude. You'll throw out a hip. Don't even try.
It was one of my best commercials. So much fun to do. It was incredible, and I got a lot of play. And I tell you, thank you for doing that, Fish. That's one of my favorite spots. And
this if you're going to do a film with this great doctor and writer and legend, in my opinion. There may be a little rewrite where you're doing a pizza and you're dancing.
How about a polish? How about the pizza owner doing a little dance, doing a little?
No, we have a. Don't you remember? There's a stripper. There's a male stripper that comes to the bikini party. Yeah. No, Johnny, did you keep the costume?
Yes, I got it.
You got the costume. All right, you may have to gain weight to get back into that costume.
I don't know if it fits anymore, but
you might have to eat a pizza or two to get back in that costume. But still, it'd be worth. You know what? That would be a great gag. They think that this handsome guy is going to be at the front door, and it's Johnny Cocktails.
And I walk in. Oh my gosh, that's.
You've already contributed artistically, Fish. You've already contributed artistically.
Fish, you're amazing. And I don't know if you know this about Fish. You're meeting him for the first time. Fish has been a bartender, one of the best ever. 42 years, 43 years.
There's a drink from the 19th century. It's called a Shadrach. I can't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about?
It was there's a shamrock, but that's basically It's a drink, but the shad, I don't know.
I'm going to get back to you about that because it'll knock you on your ass. I'm told. I've never drunk it, but it's. I've always wanted to try it just for. I'm a PhD. It's for historical reasons, you know. I want to try this drink from the 19th century. I think they may have outlawed it because it was probably something Edgar Allan Poe used to drink, but it had a great name like a.
I will make you a deal. I'll make you a deal. I'm going to meet you sometime in 2024. I will do the history of that drink, and I'll make it for you personally. All right.
Excellent.
I will. That's I'm
who will scoop me off the floor?
Yeah. I'm a mixologist, my friend, so I'll do my homework.
Are you going to be drunk
when you take an absinthe drink? Do you do that with a
Say
little
again?
Absinthe? You know, the cube of sugar, and you pour it into the. Have you ever done that?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to.
I've done it all. I flared. I've done it all. I've done it. You know, when Tom Cruise came out in Cocktail, I'm sitting in that theater, 1989, and go, "Fuck, that's me." You know.
You do the juggling and all that?
I did. I'm 63 years old. I'm not as, I'm a little older than you are, Dr. Haberman, but it's that thing. You know why that didn't? I don't want to get off a tangent here, but you know why that never flew in any bar I've ever worked in? If you notice the movie Cocktail, Brad, when you throw those bottles up, a ton of booze flies out of it, and every bar owner is going, "Hey, I'm losing money on this." And it's just so you could do, your little show. I did that back in the 80s, yes, and it kind of was it's a lost art. It's gone. Some bars do it in Manhattan and stuff like that, but in Vegas here, no. You're losing a lot of booze when you flew those bottles.
You know what I always wanted to be, Fish? I always wanted to be an alcoholic. That was my.
I can help.
No, it really was, because I thought, what a wonderful thing, and to be, even like, for example, Stephen King was an alcoholic, and yet he wrote all of these, like Salem's Lot and The Shining and stuff, drunk on his ass all the time. And I thought, what a romantic thing to be, but I can't. I'm a lightweight, After
you're not. Doctor. Wait.
I used to take women out to get them.
Dr. Haberman, you're a genius. You're a writer. Hemingway, Emerson, Mark Twain were the biggest drunks on the planet.
Right.
You're great American writers. Brad, you know this. They were so drunk all the time. They were. Right. How'd you get this literature? Robert Frost, drunk.
Right. I know, that's what I'm saying, but I'm a lightweight, so like one sip and I'm on. I used to like take women out to get them drunk, so I would get a little action, and I can't. I mean, they could drink me under the table. Every one of them could drink me under the table. It was that story. They would end up like pouring me into a cab at the after an hour.
I think you should be drunk when you direct slices, just for fun.
Maybe that's my calling. Drunk. But you know what? Sam Peckinpah directed Drunk. And he made great movies, but they basically kicked him out of Hollywood eventually.
Who's your favorite director of all time? Would that be Mel Brooks?
Mel? Mel asked me one time, and I knew what he was doing. We were sitting. I got 3 Emmy nominations. I got an Emmy nomination, primetime Emmy nominations, for producing each of Mel's HBO comedy specials. And one time we were sitting around, and I was editing one of the comedy specials in my office, in Mel's office, and Mel came in and he said, "What's the greatest comedy of all time?" And I know what he thought I was going to say. And I said, City Lights, Chaplin City Lights. He said, a talkie. I said, oh, a talkie. Dr. Strangelove, Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove.
Oh.
He said, what's the funniest comedy ever made? I said, the funniest, Blazing Saddles. Everybody knows that.
There we go.
And he goes, right. He says, they just did a poll, and the funniest movie ever made is supposed to be Some Like It Hot. And Blazing Saddles is number 2. I said, well, that's nonsense, Mel. You know that. I mean, that's just nonsense. So what did you ask me? What did you ask me?
I ask you, who's your favorite director of all time?
Oh, my favorite director of all time is Alfred Hitchcock. We're all still running to catch up with Alfred Hitchcock. Well, the thing, Brian De Palma said it best. He said Hitchcock invented everything. Of course, we imitate Hitchcock because he did everything first. It came from his head. All he thought about was cinema all day long. We have his handwritten notes on Queen Mary stationery. He was coming across from England to America to go to work for David O. Selznick for the first time. He was going to work in England for the first time in 1939. And he spent his time on the Queen Mary on this voyage over the Atlantic, writing all of these notes, his thoughts about cinema, how to use POV shots and how to use inserts, and what audiences respond to. They respond to melodrama, but melodrama has become cliche. So how do you change up melodrama? And you could see his thought process. Well, through character, you have to create relatable characters, but they have to be relatable in a humorous way to contrast with the violence and the intense suspense of the melodrama. I mean, he wrote this all. This is all he thought about his whole life, and it comes out in his movies, and he experiments with cinema and with his genre of the thriller genre in his movies. So, of course, we're all still imitating Hitchcock to a certain extent because he thought about it first. So he's my favorite director.
Steve Haberman, Dr. Steve Haberman.
Right.
I want to thank you for being on Fat Fish.
That was it? That's all you want from me?
That's all. I mean, we might have you back. I just no. Maybe. You know what? You're going to get paid with my performance in Slices as the stripper.
A little kickback for that? Do I get a little under the table?
You get a little brown bag on the side, baby.
All
and
right.
I'm telling you, I'm going to start researching my role. I'm going to go and I'm going to have a meal, maybe 2, maybe 3, because that belly's going to hang over the pants. And I'm going to be seriously, Slices is going to be a huge success, and I'm going to be a big part of that. And when I say big, I mean big.
Listen, if you scare them, they will come.
That is pretty scary. You saw my dancing.
Right.
Steve, I love you, man. I will see you on the set of Slices. And by the way, I think this guy Fish would be great in the pizza parlor with me as my assistant. What do you think?
Is that why you want me to find? You want that part, huh? We'll find you something. Don't you worry. We'll depending how useful you are in getting the gelt, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. He's gonna get the gelt.
Don't worry, I'll get you so lightheaded with some of my concoctions. You'll make me the lead, and you won't even know it.
Believe me, a child could do it. In fact, a child has done
it. Steve, we love you. I love you personally. I like to cuddle with you. Thank you for
I miss those days.
And thank you for giving me that. I mean, if it wasn't for you, I would never have been in any Mel Brooks films. Publicly, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You're welcome.
And by the way, you're having a great hair day.
Thank you. You rose to the occasion, by the way.
Did I?
You also expanded to the occasion. You did everything.
How many? By the way, I want to end with this. Mel was freaking out because we were losing lights and they had to get the big strobes out, like you said. And then Rudy comes up to me and says, "God damn it, shove that fucking burrito down your throat so we can get the fuck out of here." I go, "Yes, sir."
You did.
I did. I must have had 25 burritos that day.
Yeah, and we didn't lose the light.
No, we didn't lose the light. And by the way, I had 25 burritos. To the part, I owed 4, but on the side, I had the other.
Brought 20 with you in case you ran out. Yeah.
Fish.
All right, guys.
The greatest, Dr. Steve Haberman, everybody.
Good. So great meeting you.
All right.
Thank you for entertaining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
The masses.
The masses. By the way, do me a favor. I wish you knew more about horror films. Jesus Christ. I mean, please.
And Fish, today, Frenzy. Go get Frenzy. Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy.
Absolutely. I mean,
the blue.
I'll tell you, Dr. Haberman, I remember when I was a kid in Psycho, real quick, Brad. Psycho came out, and that scene when the chair turns around and the skeleton's in it, I couldn't sleep. I mean, how about the birds? That was a crazy film, The Birds. I mean, nuts.
Genius.
I will see Frenzy within a week.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Well, good luck on finals. Have a good summer. I hope we have classes in the fall.
Bye, Dr. Steve.
Bye, buddy. Wow.
You nailed it. What a character. The Emmys, I mean, when I see some of the comments are going to come by, someone said he looks like an older, grunged out Christian Slater.
Oh God, no.
It's the eyebrows.
Oh God.
He's going to be fun for you when we get this film done. You get this film done, he's going to be great. But if you look at his, he never answered the question I asked about Dracula Dead and loving it and stuff like that. But he worked with Dick Cavett. We got to have him back.
I was in it. What do you want to know about Dracula Dead and loving it? I had a partner.
Well, my question. You tell me. My question is, I'm a big vampire guy, and he's the head writer on that. It says 1995,
right?
And
Leslie Nielsen.
What was the film? What was the film? Give me a 30-second. What's the film about, and what did you do in it?
Well, Uncle Mel plays Van Helsing, and he's doing an autopsy, and I was one of the students in the autopsy. And by the way, one of Leslie Nielsen's finest films. He was unbelievable in it. He was the star. He was wonderful. He was incredible. Leslie Nielsen. Underrated.
Can I put a dig on? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
See, there's like a 2-second delay between each other, so we sound like you're talking on each other. So I'll do this when I'm done, and you can keep talking because I'll talk over you anyways. I got to give you shit because something happened last night that's never happened before, and I thought about you because I know you get nervous and you eat. 5 minutes and 36 seconds ago in San Francisco, and the Warriors are up by 17, and they lose to the Denver Nuggets.
18.
Steve Kerr. Your good buddy Steve Kerr always holds his composure, but I swear to you, could see the veins you get in the side of your head when you're pissed off. I mean, Stephen Curry said I've never seen that before, and they need Draymond back. Sorry,
no, they do. But did you see him? He was talking to the Joker. Remember the Joker? I guess fouled. I don't know who he fouled coming up court, and Steve looked at, don't do that. Did you see the little banter they had? And the Joker, he showed him something at the end, at the 3.
That shot,
unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. I can't believe they couldn't hold the lead at home, up by 18. It just goes to show you it's never over till it's over. You
always said you always say we talk about sports. You always say the momentum carries you, and the little things when you get on a roll. Like you're going to do this year in Hollywood, the momentum keeps going and positive things happen. I'll give you my prediction. I'm pissed off. My Raiders were eliminated from the playoffs on Sunday, and my Longhorns were eliminated from the college football playoffs on Monday. I think Michigan. If you're watching those games, Michigan, Jim Harbaugh outcoached Nick Saban. That doesn't happen. That's like you out acting Al Pacino for a part when he was younger. It doesn't happen. You're a good actor, Brad. Not that good. I like Michigan over Washington, unless it's a shootout. What do you think?
I think Michigan's going to take it because they have the momentum. They have won games that they shouldn't have won, and they have everybody back from last year. But I have to say, the quarterback for Washington Huskies is incredible. He is the real deal, that guy. Oh, he is really good. It's going to be a great game, but I think Michigan's going to pull it out, and they're going to be national champions. And then I think Harbaugh will go back to the NFL. That's my prediction there. But I think Michigan all the way Monday. And I've been right. I told you Michigan was going to win. Remember when you asked
you called it? Yeah, good for you. You should get one of those 1-800 numbers. Call me, Brad. Between eating burritos for the movie Slices, I'll give you the hot tips this week's NFL games. I never lose. You ever hear those 800 numbers?
Yeah, those guys. Yeah.
There you go. There's another career for you.
Yeah.
Jed Fish, University of Arizona, great recruiting class. I read, and then through the portal. I'm telling you. I will predict by the time Slices is made or within the time it's released and our podcast finally sells to somebody, Arizona will be known as a football school more than a basketball school. How do you like that?
It'll never happen. But I will say this. We have come a long way, baby. I mean, Arizona football was a joke for like the last 8 years. And Fish, the other Fish, Jed Fish, he brought us back, man. It's going to be, I'll tell you, we got a great recruiting class. We got a great quarterback, and we'll see what happens. But it's exciting. I had the best time at the University of Arizona, and I have to have a little. Molly, baby, what are you doing? Molly goes, come on, Daddy.
It's Grubhub. Supposed to go to LA, Beverly Hills, not here. Easy, Molly. She's gonna bark. So
I know.
If we could talk over it for a second, I gotta say something. I lost Barboss. I did not win Barboss. I finished very high in the country, and I want to thank everyone that voted for me. It doesn't mean that Brad and I say this every show, aren't going to stop anti-bullying, especially at the teen level. So I just want to bring that out before we get out of here. Thanks everyone for voting for me. I finished very high in the country. Even though I didn't win, we're still going to win for the cause.
Always. And God bless Molly for her challenge and her memory. We're going to stop this horrible thing that's happening to kids today in schools and college, all the stuff. I mean, it's got to stop. And it's going to be in Molly's memory. Molly is wonderful. And look at your Molly. There you go. I think she wants to see you and you to walk her. She wants to get the hell out of that house of yours.
Walk her. And it's always good seeing you. Great first. You know what, Brad? This is show number 43, but it's our first show of the new year. And boy, the talk about momentum. What a way to kick it off, right?
Oh man! Thank you, Dr. Steve Haberman, for your insight into the horror genre. But it's great to talk to him because he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself as being his waiter with Rudy DeLuca, his writing partner. And that's a true story about Uncle Mel and Anne Bancroft saying, all right.
Let me stop right there. And I'll say this and you get us out of here. Get our boy Dave Linden there to sing goodbye. I make fun of you all the time. It's not bullying. I make fun of you because that's what we do with each other.
Right.
You're a great actor. And if anyone, forget the comedy, if anyone could go back and watch your segment on Shameless, where you're a dick to Emmy Rossum's character in that diner, and you confront Dermot Mulroney. We talked about this on the show. That's pure acting. There's zero comedy in that scene. And you brought out like, this is the tense, but Brad's being a dick. And of course, I'm in the restaurant business. The way you portrayed that character brought the tense and the anxiety out of me watching it. And I don't want to give it away. That's acting. I mean, you could play yourself being a burrito, being some funny guy on Fuller House, or being a fat guy in Two Broke Girls. You have a big toilet. Watch Shameless. Get us out of here, Mr. 43.
43 in the books. Thank you for that compliment. I'm humbled by that. And been doing it a long time. And John Candy, by the way, is my hero because he did drama and comedy. He's my favorite of all time. And you're my favorite of all time because Fat Fish 43 is in the books. Dave Linden, take us home, baby.
You've been listening to the Fat Fish Podcast, heard on all your favorite platforms. Until next time.
Love you, buddy.
We both love our